Welcome back to the show, everybody. I think that you guys all miss me because I was absent from the airwaves for quite a bit of time. It's a busy time this summer for me, but I am back. Now this time again, I'm going to be in the passenger seat and the driver will be Saad Nadeem. And you guys remember Saad, he's been on my podcast many times and a very intelligent and knowledgeable certified financial planner. This time around with Saad, we are going to be talking about the financial challenges of foreign trained physicians. However, this being said, as you listen to the podcast, you will realize that this also applies to Canadian trained physicians for whom this is their second career, or they started late in medicine. Or maybe this is for the physician who's completed their PGY 5000 and now trying to complete a PhD to now become a staff maybe in the next 10 years. And so you understand that, the longer we wait to start earning an income, and as we approach age of retirement, the more financial challenges these physicians will face. And so this is definitely not just for foreign trained physicians. It is also for physicians who are in a financial situation where they are later in life and now looking for something in retirement and proper financial planning. So I hope you guys enjoy this show, and I will leave it to Saad.
How's my financial health, Doc? Welcome to the Financial Literacy Podcast for Healthcare Professionals, where financial security and wealth topics are not a taboo.
All right, welcome to your Rich, Fulfilling Life show. I'm your host, Saad Nadeem, and I am ecstatic, absolutely ecstatic to have my good friend Vu on our podcast today for the first time, because I've always been the one who has received the love on the other side and been asked to come on Vu's show. But today is a special day because after 3 years, we're finally going to do this. And Dr. Vu Kiet Tran in the flesh here with us on your Rich Fulfilling Life show. How are you doing, Vu?
Hey, I'm great, Saad. But you know what? I've been waiting for 3 years. You're excited because it's been 3 years. I've been waiting for 3 years. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here, Vu. I think it's going to be a really fun conversation today in terms of how we're going to be able to provide quite a lot of value for internationally trained physicians, or even obviously just physicians in general in Canada. I really wanted to get started here with your background story first, because I think that is where a lot of internationally trained physicians may find themselves, where you were in your beginning of your journey. But I'll let you explain that.
Yeah, thank you. Listen, I think in some ways I can relate, or internationally trained physicians can relate to my story. As you know, Saad, we've been talking to each other for many years now, at least 3-4 years now.
Yeah.
And you know that I'm a refugee.
Yeah.
I was a refugee with my parents. We came from Vietnam back in the 1970s, late 1970s. This is right after the Vietnam War. And so we came as refugees to Montreal. We landed in Montreal in December, like in the middle of the winter, with a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. And like we never knew what winter was, coming from Vietnam. And so we had really nothing. My parents had nothing. We grew up in Montreal with nothing, never owned a home. I tell people all the time, the most valuable thing we ever possessed in our entire lifetime while we were there was a subway card, a Metro Pass. We didn't own a house. We didn't own a home. We rented all the time. And the most valuable thing we ever had on us at all times was a Metro Pass. With my parents, no, you can't do anything. I wouldn't be where I am today without my parents. So with my parents, put us through university, put us through med school. I put me through med school, and then I became a doctor in 2000 and moved to Toronto. And you know what? When you become a doctor, you're like, oh, I finally made it. Now working, making good money. I mean, I won't shy away from saying that we make good money as physicians in Canada. And I knew nothing, absolutely nothing, zero or less than nothing about finances and personal finance, let alone investing. I had some colleagues who are day trading, swing trading, whatever trading. They were trading business cards and they were trading hockey cards, but they were trading a whole bunch of things. And I was just like, I have no clue what you're talking about. So I went to the bank and spoke to the manager. Say, hey, I moved from Montreal. I know nothing about Toronto. I'm starting a new job. Can I open a bank account? And what should I do with my money that comes in on a monthly basis? What should I be doing? Well, you should invest in RSPs. You should do this. Let's do a KYC. So know your client. Not surprisingly, I came out as nerdy conservative.
Conservative, yeah.
Yeah, conservative. So here, Vu, sign on this dotted line. Of course, I signed. And let's start investing, right? So put me in some fund, conservative balance fund. And I just let it ride for 13 years. So I continue working.
13 years.
13 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 13 years. I just let it ride. And I was perfecting my craft, right? I was brand new out of school, just learning how to be a human being, learning how to be a good doctor, learning how to be a good emergency doctor, and just saying yes to everything, working everything that's proposed to me. I mean, the only thing I didn't do is dance in a bar. Like everything else I did, right? So I learned my craft, and I've totally absolutely neglected my own personal finance. And then 13 years later, 2013, I go back to the bank manager and say, hey, how did I do? By the way, I'm 13 years later, I'm a little bit wiser. I now got married, and now have a child. What should I be looking for? How did I do? You know what, Vu, you did great since inception, which is 2000, until now. You made 1.7% or 1.3, something ridiculously low.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? You call that good? He says, yeah, that's pretty good, Vu. I'm like, really? And I was steaming. I was so angry. Not at the bank manager. Absolutely not. It wasn't his fault. I mean, he does what he needs to do. He put me in the right funds because I came out as conservative. He put me in the things that he was supposed to put me in. But I was extremely angry because for 13 years, I neglected my own personal finance. And like I said, I knew nothing, absolutely nothing. And in 2013, I had already had my MBA. I already done my MBA.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what just happened? I lost 13 years of my life. I work hard. Like I said yes to everything. Like I was working, God, 80, 90 hours a week because I was saying yes to everything. And I was just working very hard. And I thought to myself, am I going to do this for the rest of my life, working 80, 90 hours a week and burning myself out and make 1.3%? That's when I said no more. Like, you have to stop this craziness, Vu.
Yeah.
And so what I did, I started reading, and not the New England Journal of Medicine, not JAMA, none of these. Like, of course I have to, because I'm an emerge doc and I have to be, up to date to my medical knowledge. But I took it upon myself and made it really clear to myself that I could not no longer neglect my own personal finance. So I started buying books, just finance books, which I knew nothing about, by the way. And I just like, what's the best book? I came across this. My very first book that I bought, believe it or not, was called Beat the Bank by Larry Bates.
Larry Bates.
Larry Bates. Amazing book. And then the second book I bought, oh, what's this rich dad, poor dad guy,
Yeah.
who was on Oprah. I heard about him at some point in my life. I'm like, sure, I'll buy this book. And then that led me to more books and meeting yourself, Saad, and meeting other people, and then just trying to understand personal finance. And with that, just continued my journey.
So, I mean, I feel many people are in this position today, especially from the conversations that I have. They may not have waited 13 years, but many people I feel like do start off that path where I just became a physician. I just have to make sure I'm in the good books with the college, learn my craft, do well, put my head down and just get to work, and hoping that everything else will be okay. Obviously not, right? You still have to focus everywhere. But based on your experience now, in terms of what you know today, what would you say are like some of the things you wish you knew then that you knew now as the most impactful?
This is what I've learned throughout this whole learning. That one, I'm not the only one like that. Um, as physicians, we're great at what we do. Like Canadian, American trained, North American trained physicians are top notch physicians in the world. So
Mm-hmm.
we're very good at what we do, but we're very bad at what we don't do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Smart.
So I say a lot to my colleagues and to anybody who wants to listen to me. We are the dumbest smart person that we know. Right? We are the dumbest
that's
smart person that we know.
that's my wife. That's what she says. She's
That's
like,
it, yeah.
I'm the smartest, dumbest person she knows.
There you go.
You know?
There you go. Because we're very good and very smart at what we do, but we're very dumb when it comes to, you know, finances. When it comes to personal finances, investments, etc. So that's the first thing I learned. It was very, it was very scary at first because I'm like, oh, well, what's gonna happen to my future? Like, am I gonna be having to work 80, 90 hours a week for the rest of my life just to survive? So that
Mm-hmm.
was the first thing I learned. Scary. The second thing that I learned is that we have to take charge. And I don't mean be good at every single financial planning item solution. No. What I mean is we need to still put our hand on the wheel, right? And have the autopilot, but still keep our hand on the wheel, right?
Yeah.
And that's important because many of us, like you say, work, put our head down, just work, and let other people take care of it. Unfortunately, other people don't always take care of it, and so
Yeah.
we
And
need to do that.
just because, the person is in the position in terms of in your situation was the banker, he does a KYC, and he's like, oh, based on yours, you are conservative. But if a few more questions were asked of that person on the other side of the desk, one would understand really fast that this person doesn't actually know anything. They just have that chauffeur knowledge, which is that tip of the iceberg knowledge, right? Where obviously, like you said, like the onus is on you to ask these questions. You can't just leave it on autopilot. You have to figure out who the right people are to help you make sure they pass the chauffeur test. They actually know what they're talking about. And then you'll actually be in a position where you can actually be on autopilot and just put your finger on the wheel type of thing, and then you're going to be fine. But I feel like that's what it is, because this is not the first time. Obviously, I'm hearing this. We had a client we just brought on a week ago, and he literally told me the exact same story. It's literally the exact same thing. It's like my accountant told me to go to the bank, open an RSP. So I went in there, and the guy's like, okay, so you want a GIC RSP or you want a stock in RSP? Well, he's like, well, stocks are risky. I don't want any of that, But my accountant told me to open an RSP. He's like, so what do you think I should do? And the guy's like, okay, well, just open a stock RSP, do your KYC. Came out conservative. Of course, it's going to come out conservative because you didn't even take the time to explain what this actually means. How much time do you have to retirement? What does it actually mean to be an aggressive investor? Are you really going to lose all your money? Is your money going to be invested in penny stocks, or is it actually going to be a well-balanced portfolio where you're still going to be okay? And as you get to retirement, we'll actually take off some of that risk and make you conservative eventually, but maybe not 30 years out, you know? So
Right.
that's what I feel where a lot of people are in terms of like, the chauffeur test. Like, what do you think of that? Yeah.
I think what happens is that banker. I've known him for many many years, and even at the time, I thought he was a very educated and knowledgeable person. That being said, not everybody working at the bank is knowledgeable and sophisticated. I mean, a lot of these come up the ranks as a clerk, and then they come up the ranks, and then they become personal managers, and then they become managers of the bank. And but so it depends who you get. But my banker at the time was someone who's been in the business for a long long time, so he wasn't definitely not a junior. But where I think the problem was, and my analogy of putting your hand on the wheel is, the autopilot will take you and will go at a certain speed and you'll be fine. But you still need to know when it's time to brake.
Yeah.
And you still need to know when it's time to turn right or get off the exit, right? And
Yeah.
and that the onus is on you. It's on me.
Mhm.
The onus is on me. Now, when he told me, "Hey, Vu, your KYC is your conservative, blah 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 blah," and you're right to your point, he didn't explain the rest. I'm sure he knew. He didn't
Of course he
explain,
knows. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Of course he knows. But I was 26 at the time. I
Yeah.
could take a bit more risk. I had
A
time
lot more.
horizon, right?
Yeah.
I had risk capacity. I also had risk tolerance. I had a
Yeah.
whole bunch of things. And he never explained that to me. And he says,
Yeah.
"Yeah, you're conservative. You're 26-year-old. Let's put you in conservative." And the onus is on me to push back and say, okay, I get it. I know my KYC says conservative, but you know what? I don't plan to retire till I'm 65, which is 40 years from now. Can I not tolerate a little bit more risk? Should I not be a little bit more risky now? And by the way, not all stocks are risky. If
Yeah.
I buy the Bells and the Scotia Bank and the TD Bank and the Enbridge of the world, those
You'll be
those are
fine.
you'll be fine. Those are pretty solid
And
stocks.
if those are not fine, we have much bigger problems.
Absolutely, right? If those are not solid, we have nuclear bombs to deal with, not
Yeah.
the stock market. And that was the problem. The problem is, and that's a third thing I learned, right? The third thing I learned, which may sound really offensive, and I don't want it to be, but it will come up as being offensive. That there's a different standard in the financial industry, right? As physicians, and all physicians know because we all swore to the Hippocratic Oath. And the Hippocratic Oath is you do your best for your patient. And
Hmm.
all of us in healthcare, I'm not just talking about doctors, dentists, nurses, nurse practitioners, physician assistant, chiropractors, optometrists, everybody in healthcare subscribe by what I call the highest standard of fiduciary duty, which is best interest. Everything we do, everything we say, everything we recommend, suggest is always in the patient's or client's best interest.
Hmm.
This is not the same in the financial industry, right? The financial industry, the standard that they operate on is suitability, not best interest. And that I did not understand. I wasn't even aware, right? It takes people like yourself, Saad. It takes other people who are portfolio managers, the highest standard of fiduciary duty, to actually deliver that. But if you're a manager at a bank or a financial institution and you're selling Scotia funds, you're selling TD funds, that's all you're selling.
Yeah.
And it may be suitable, but not best for your client,
Best.
right? And that's what I did not understand. And so not having that knowledge, not having that hand on the steering wheel to say, I get it, I understand you're suggesting to me, national bank mutual funds or whatever funds it is, but is that really best for me at my stage of my career, my life, my investment journey? Is that the best for me? I know it's good enough, but is that the best for me? And I didn't even have that knowledge to even ask that question, and that was on me.
Yeah. And I think, see, I mean, it happened in my case. So I'm thankful to God for putting that thought in my head. Otherwise, you're right, because at my ex company, um, regardless of what your problem is and regardless of what we're trying to do, it would always be the company's name first and then a fund the right after, right? And I worked at the bank in the beginning, same idea, then worked at this other company, same idea. And I'm looking at my designations. I'm a CFP, I'm a CLU, I'm a RRC, I'm working on a whole bunch of other things. My wife says I'm always studying for something. I thought I finished school a long time ago, right? But so what is all happening? But with all these designations, it pretty much puts me in a place where I have to have my client's best interest at all times. And even if it was not put it on me with these designations, just in my heart, I want to make sure that I can sleep properly at night and knowing that I've done the best for everybody I've come across. But when you're working at some of these other institutions, it makes it really hard. Some people tell us they want to buy real estate. We'll help them do that. You know how many people have told me, physicians have told me, I told my guy at the bank, I want to buy real estate. And he's like trying to convince me that real estate is not a good investment, because when he does that, then that's down payment money that comes out of the portfolio that he's not going to get paid out on anymore.
Right.
Right. And
So
I'm just looking at it like, how is that even legal?
yeah, and the other book, that brings me back to a point. The other book that I read many, many years ago, even before getting interested in personal finance, is Freakonomics.
Yeah.
Have you ever read that book?
Yeah, that's a good
Like, it's
book.
an amazing book.
Yeah.
And it's a book, and it boils down to one message in my mind. There's many more, but it boils down to one message. You need to understand the other person's incentive.
Yeah.
Right. And what is the incentive for the portfolio manager to help you buy real estate? None.
Zero.
Zero.
Yeah.
Because if you take money out of the investment, he has less money to manage.
Yeah.
Therefore, he makes less money, but you make more money on the real estate side potentially.
Yeah.
So the person, the investment manager, will say, no, never do real estate, because once you decide to do real estate, you're taking 20% out of the portfolio, and I'm going to make 20% less.
And you know what the thing is? We've gotten so many clients, but just helping them buy real estate. It's so, and the thing is, I just don't even understand. Like personally speaking, obviously, in a bias way, I'm hoping this continues, so RFL will just grow to a crazy company, because it's not even that hard to actually really help people. Like, our North Compass help people live a rich, fulfilling life, regardless of what it is. They want to buy real estate, help them do that. They want to do money in the stock market, help them do that. They want to look at other asset classes, let's do that. They want to set up pensions, let's do that. And I think the independence is what's key for internationally trained physicians. Like, I kind of give an example of, and a lot of people do get it. I say, imagine you're a physician, and why do your patients trust you? Because they know you're going to give them independent advice, right? So if they come to VU and they say, okay, well, this is hurting and this is aching and this is happening and that's happening, VU is an independent physician, and he's going to give the best advice for this patient. It might be to start taking medication. It might be to stop doing certain things in his lifestyle to help them get better. We don't know. It doesn't have to lead to some sort of a prescription necessarily, right? But imagine now,
it doesn't.
Right?
Yeah.
But imagine now, all of a sudden, you are employed by a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
The dynamics change.
Yeah.
And I think when I tell this story to a lot of physicians, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. It's because we're not employed by the pharmaceutical company at RFL. But how are you supposed to know what you don't know?
Well, I say that all the time, right? You're right. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so if you don't know, how are you going to ask the intelligent questions? You can't, because you have no background, you have no context. And you need to ask the intelligent questions, because that's the only time you're going to know that this is best for you. Now, you may have two possible solutions, right? And you may have 5 clients in front of you, and those 2 solutions may be the best solutions, but it may not be the correct solution for client number 5. And so client number 5 needs to understand that, hey, I should ask some questions and try to understand, and maybe realize that the 2 solutions Saad has for me is not right for me. Saad needs to build a third solution, and that's what Saad's going to do. And so we understand that in medicine all the time. We understand that in medicine. Trust me, we know what that means, right? So an oncologist dealing with a patient in front of him with breast cancer, they have regimen A, B, C, E, F, D, right? They have all these regimens for breast cancer. But whether you're stage 1 breast cancer, stage 4, you're female, you have ovarian cancer as well, and you're also diabetic and blah blah blah, and you pile on the medical conditions, you realize, you know what, regimen C is probably the best,
The best. Yeah.
right? And so we do that every single day. We do that with every single decision when it comes to medicine. But when it comes to finance, it's like, whatever.
Do you think it might be because you're so overworked in your in your profession that by the time the small amount of time you actually have to get down to this, you're just like, I really hope this person, whoever it is, can just solve my problem so I don't have to think about
There's some of that. I think
it.
there's
Yeah.
multifold, right?
Yeah.
Multifold. The first one is there's a reason why we went into medicine, right? One, we're not very good at math.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. I got 99% in math to get into med school, but no, that's not what I mean. We're not interested in finance, right?
Yeah.
That's why we
I
got
think that.
into
Yeah.
that's how we got into medicine. So that's problem number one. We're not interested in finance. We don't want to know about it. We don't want to care about it. I don't even want to hear about it. So that's one reason. The other reason is it's decision fatigue.
Yeah.
Decision fatigue. Like I go to work 8-hour day. I potentially see 25 people on my shift, and out of those 25, I probably made 10 decisions each.
Yeah.
Right. So by the time I'm done my shift, I made 250 critical, life-threatening, life-saving decisions. When
Hmm.
I come home, I don't really want to make another decision. Right.
Yeah.
And so decision fatigue is another possibility. And the third one is we have a trust of people. That's in healthcare, because to be a doctor, to be a nurse, you've acquired the knowledge, the skill, the competence to make those decisions on behalf of your patients. So your patients inherently trust you because of the type of studies we've gone through. And we take that mentality and project it onto other people. We think that other people are the same as we are,
Yeah.
that they've done the same studies, they've done the same training, the same rigorous training, and that they've also subscribed to some Hippocratic oath equivalent,
Hmm.
which is not true. They
Yeah.
haven't. And so we project that trust onto other people. And I think
Yeah.
that's where the problem is. One, we're not interested. Two, we have decision fatigue. And three, we think those people have the best for us. And you combine all three together and say, well, yeah, whatever Bob at the bank tells me goes, because Bob has my best interest at heart.
Yeah.
Reality is it's not.
Yeah. I see a few things. The first one is the person who knows has to do something. So, like, we'll, I guess, go back to your situation. You're saving money. You have to do something with the money. So at least, that's there. You might know what's best for you, but you have to do something.
Well, I'm going to stop you there for a
Yeah.
minute just to interject.
Yeah.
I would say a good 50% don't know that, if not more. A good 50%, if not more, don't even know what you just said, right? Because it didn't even occur to them. And here's why. And it's by environment, right? They come from another country, whether it's Sudan, China, Romania, whatever it is. They're struggling just to get in. They don't want to flip the burgers anymore. They don't want to be driving Ubers anymore, right? They're struggling just to get in, and the process is quite rigorous, to get into the Canadian system and could be a doctor. So they've put all their time, energy, effort just to get there. And by the time they get there, they're now 5 years behind, 7, 10 years behind financially.
Hmm.
They've put all their money to invest into getting through the door.
Yeah.
They are now full of debt. And the first thing they think about is, oh my God, I better make this work.
Yeah.
And I better pay down the debt. And everything else is forgotten. Like they don't realize that they need to save for the future. They don't realize that if they break a leg and they stop working for 6 months, the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah.
They don't realize that, yeah, you're 10 years behind everybody.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them are very focused on that, right? And so they're not focused on, well, how do I save? How do I look at the future? Because I'm already struggling now. Forget about the future, right? I'm
Yeah. I guess
struggling
you're
now.
pretty low on the hierarchy of needs, right? Like Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
That's right.
Um,
So I would say a good 50%, if not more, don't even realize what you just said. And it's important that you make them understand that. That's your
okay.
job.
So, what then would you say are the top 3 things that internationally trained physicians should know when it comes to their finances? And let's say these people are in their first 2-3 years of practice.
So I'm going to give you a few, not necessarily in order.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, the first things first. You've made it this far. You've come this far. You've invested time, sweat, money, blood. You've invested it. Don't let it fall apart because you broke a leg. Don't let it fall apart because you're burning out or you now have a mental illness. Don't let it fall apart because of some stupid medical condition that happened to you unexpectedly.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that you need to do is protect whatever was invested. Whatever was invested, protect it. Like this it took you so much just to get this far. You need to protect it. So what am I talking about? Saad, you and I talk about this all the time. Risk
Yep.
mitigation and protection.
Yep.
Right?
Disability insurance, critical illness. I actually think critical illness and disability are way more important than life insurance these days.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
our science has developed to a point where, remember back in the day, if an uncle got a heart attack, he probably died, right?
Yep.
2 weeks later.
Yep.
Now that same uncle gets a heart attack and 2 weeks later he's back to work,
Right.
And the reason that person is back to work, not because they were laying on their deathbed hoping, I can't wait to get back to work, but it's because they didn't die. Right?
Yeah.
They didn't die. Life insurance doesn't pay out. That means mortgage still has to be paid, car loans still have to be paid, bills have to be paid, tax has to be paid. So that's why they're hurrying up to get back to work. So I think critical illness and disability is way more important now in 2023 than life insurance. Obviously, life insurance is there as well, but I think those two, CIDI, is absolutely critical. What do you think?
I agree with you 100%. Maybe 120%, Saad. But it's important that these individuals understand that, and I'm not sure why we don't. I'm not sure why we don't, because we're physicians after all.
Yeah.
But we don't understand that medical illness will come at the most inopportune time.
Inconvenience. It's always always
right?
inconvenient.
It's always at the most inopportune time
Yeah.
and most unexpected. And we as physicians, we deal with that all day long with our patients. But yet when it comes to us, yeah, it doesn't happen. No, I'm going to be
Which
immortal.
is so weird. Like, I mean, I do come across those people sometimes. Like, we just did one over the weekend. He was declined, first of all. Then my staff, I told him, like, we're not taking this as an answer. We're going to get him approved. He needs this coverage.
Yeah.
4 months of back and forth with the underwriter. 4 months after this person got declined, we got an approved contract. Standard approved contract.
That's
we
amazing.
had him like, why don't we fill out this extra form that'll help them see that everything is fine and you're not going to get this injury? Or why don't we do one extra test over here, go to your physician, do this extra thing so just we can submit that result. There was a lot of work we had to do, but 4 months later finally got him standard. And for 4 months he's been like, hey Saad, is it approved now? Is it approved now? So I'm telling him, like, listen, just give me some time. We're working on it all the time, just making sure this, but it's just time now. That's all we need. Finally get him approved. He's like, let me think about it. I'm like, what?
What? Well, that's because he did not understand the principle of life.
Yeah.
Which is people get sick and doctors are people, therefore
Yeah.
doctors get sick. Right?
It's absolutely crazy because the thing is like we're so, maybe it's just our colleagues or society or social media or something or the other, right? It's because and I'm so glad you said this as the first thing, because this is not water cooler talk, right? You're not bragging about the best critical illness coverage you just got, and if something happens to you, you're going to get $500,000 of tax-free money, lump sum, paid to you personally, for example, if that's the way we structure it. That's not water cooler talk, right? So because it's not hot or spicy, and people feel that, okay, well, if I just invest this money, I think it'll be okay. But yeah, but not really.
Well, you know what? You just made a great point. You just made a great point, and I think it's worth talking about it. To all the people out there who's listening to you and I right now, talking about insurance is not, it is not sexy.
Yeah.
It is not a water cooler conversation. It's not like the Habs beat the Toronto Maple Leaf 10-0 last night, right?
Oh,
It's
wow.
not,
Okay.
it's not
He's going to
that,
get
right?
political in this episode.
Right. I mean, I want to spice up this podcast, right? All the people listening in Toronto. So it's not that, but it's talking about the nitty gritty of getting you protection. And you and I have seen this pyramid. It's similar to the pyramids of needs from Maslow, but it's
Yep.
the pyramid of financial planning, right?
Yep.
At the bottom is protection. And what is it really? It's insurances, right? DICILI, right? But so having that protection, having that foundation, it's like building a house. You don't build a house by building the attic. You
Yeah.
build a house by building the foundation. Once your foundation is solid, your house will be fine, even if there's a tornado, right? And the tornado is that cancer, that tornado is that stroke, that tornado is that heart attack. Once you build a good foundation, your attic's going to survive despite the storm. But
Yeah.
if you build the attic first, and the attic is what? Well, let's talk about crypto. Let's buy
Yeah.
Bitcoin. Let's go. I invested in Tesla. Like all
Yeah.
these sexy talk around the cocktail party.
Yeah.
That's not what's done. That's not what's going to keep you going for the next 35 years, right?
It's like it's like and I've come to realize this. Anytime something is too exciting, I'm very weary about it now.
Are you?
And
I'm
and
okay with that. I'm okay with excitement. I mean, I need a bit of excitement in my life.
I don't mean in personal life you go out and
No,
have
I
some
get,
fun,
I
you
get
know.
what you mean.
But anything exciting, like if you just think about it, right? Like, so was it exciting to do 10 years of extra schooling to become a physician? No, you had to just put your head down and do the work, get to work, right? It's boring. Yes, is everybody will remember the picture that they took of you, your parents took of you when you were on the stage and got your degree and everything, but that's not what you got there, right? That's the
No,
attic. What got you there to be a physician is you put your head down, you sacrificed a lot of time with your family and friends, put your head down and did the work. And that's what financial independence is as well.
absolutely.
It's not the high flying bought Tesla at $50 and sold it at $1,000 and made $1 million overnight. It's none of those things. It's about, did you do the boring stuff? Did you do the boring work, which is putting your head down, making sure your critical illness is in place, your disability is in place? And this is the stuff that nobody wants to talk about. But like we tell our clients, like, hey, listen, we're not spending hours and hours. It's a lot of time to put together a financial life plan for one person, one family, to help them live a rich, fulfilling life. It's a whole staff of people that comes together to make sure that we're going to be able to do this for you. So we tell them, like, hey, listen, like, we're not doing all this work just for you to get injured 6 months later, and everything we just talked about, your kids, your spouse, maybe your parents that you're looking after back home that you're still spending money to, all of this will disappear overnight.
Overnight.
All of this.
Now,
So critical. So
very.
critical.
I mean, I have no problem. People tell me all the time, Vu, why don't you want to talk about stocks and bonds and investing in this and investing in real estate?
It's
By the
lame.
way, I talk a lot about investing in real estate,
Yeah.
but I always say the exact same thing first. Build your foundation, and then everything else we can talk about.
Yeah.
Right? If all you talk about is buying real estate and investing in real estate and investing in Tesla and Spotify and whatnot, if you haven't done your foundation, your attic's going to get blown away in the storm.
and you're
Right.
going to be caught, and you're going to be caught at the worst time,
At the worst
in
time.
your 50s, when you're least expecting it. You just bought maybe like a $2 million house, and you're thinking you're set, and then that's when like God has other plans
Right.
usually. you know
So talk about the sexy stuff by all means, of course, but do the boring stuff first. Right.
Perfect. So we got the first one. So what are the other two things?
Okay. The second one, do not behave like a child in a candy store. Do not behave like a child in a candy store. That's number two, right? What do I mean? And the same for us, by the way, whether we're Canadian trained, local trained, or foreign trained,
Hmm.
the first paycheck you get, right? You arrived, right? It's the arrival fallacy, right? Remember
Yep.
that?
Yep.
The arrival fallacy. I've made it. I've arrived. I've got my first check. It's 50,000 a month, whatever it
Yeah.
is, 30,000 a month,
Yeah.
10,000 a month, whatever. I'm rolling in money, and it's
Yeah.
just your first check. And what
Yeah.
do? You go buy the $4 million house,
Yeah.
right? Or I've seen this too. They got their first check. They're now a doctor. They think they're gonna roll in money, right? And they have no money to put in the RSP. They have no money to put in the TFSA. They haven't bought the CI. They haven't bought the DI. They haven't even thought about buying life insurance. And they got the BMW X5.
Yeah.
And then obviously, the first thing that happens is I've made it. The arrival fallacy.
Yeah.
And then it's like giving your own 3-year-old kid $100 and walk into a candy store. That's
Yeah.
essentially what it's the equivalent of. And so you wouldn't do that to your 3-year-old child. So why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah.
Make sure that you spend. By all means, you've earned it. We've earned it.
Yeah.
Right? They've invested sweat, time, blood. They've earned it. But make sure you've done your basics and your foundation before you splurge like that. Because like you say, the wind blows and you'll be left exposed.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Especially a lot of people, and we've seen both sides now, right? I've seen people who wanted to do that right off the bat. And I told them, okay, at least at the minimum, we're going to do the risk mitigation stuff. Let's at least get your CIDI stuff out of the way. You don't want to save for the future right now, because the most important thing to you at this point is buying that, $2-3 million home. But you see on the other side as well, a lot of people saying, you know what, Saad, I listened to this one video of yours, or that one episode that you made, or that one video I came across on YouTube. As much as I would like to just buy that nice car finally, just take my money and put it in places where it needs to be first, so I can make the smart decision. But imagine how much control that this person needs to have to be in that position, right? So I've seen both sides, and 10 out of 10, the person who decided not to splurge on day one and actually at least took care of their kids' education first, themselves first, their risk mitigation and some money aside. 10 out of 10, because I've seen how their lives have grown over the years. It's like 10 out of 10, the person who just wait. It's that instant gratification, essentially, right?
It's the marshmallow test.
It's the marshmallow test, instant gratification. Like, just give me that car. Of course I can afford it. I'm going to get that same 50 grand next month. And then the month after that, OHIP or whatever college in province you're in is going to continue to give that check every month. And you're like, I'll be fine. Yeah. But before you know it, that other principle, he talks about it in psychology of money as well, which is, you're not just buying that. The story he gave in that book was, you're not just buying the Gucci belt, right? Because you're not just going to be wearing like clothes from Walmart on a Gucci belt. Because once you get the Gucci belt, now you got to get the pants to go along with it. Okay, well, that's another $1,000. Now you need a shirt to match it. Okay, well, that's another $600. Now you need the shoes. Now you need the glasses. Now you need all of this. All of a sudden, it wasn't just a Gucci belt; it's the whole thing. So it's not just the $2 million home. $2 million home is the Gucci belt. After that, you're getting $30,000 of furniture. Then you're getting your deck made in the backyard. Should we get a pool this summer? Okay, of course. You know what? Maybe let's do that. Why not? Because I'm getting that 50 grand next month.
Well, it's not just that. I'm a physician. I deserve a pool.
Yeah. Well, that too. Like, Who's
Right.
going to stop me? I've worked my whole life. I'm now in my 40s. I deserve this and I'm going to get this. But that might not be the best thing for your future.
Well, a lot of this is a deprivation, right? You know about deprivation.
Yep.
I definitely lived deprivation my entire life. So you come here from another country, you go through your schooling, you invested to do NAC OSCE, LMCC 1, LMCC 2, LMCC 500, whatever it is, right? And you pass the exams, you pass the residency, and now you're in your 40s, and you say, God damn it, I've done everything, and now I've got 50 grand coming next month. I need to reward myself.
Yeah.
And then all that learning deprivation and delayed gratification that we've learned throughout our entire lives just boom disappeared because
Yeah.
I was just given $100 to walk into a candy store,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden all that learning that we've had just disappeared because my colleague, by the way, Vu, that emerged guy, he's
Yeah.
driving a BMW,
Yeah.
and he lives in a
Have you
$4
seen his
million house.
house? Oh my God.
Right,
Yeah, we
right.
want
He's lived in
that.
a $4 million house in Oakville, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll tell you this story. A friend of mine that I've mentored for the longest time. She's a physician from China. I've mentored for the longest time. I've have her worked in my clinic as an IMG, seeing patients and reviewing patients with me and making sure she keeps her clinical, acumen. And then she went to do her residency, 5 years. Took another 5 years. She was probably 40 something by now. And she finally made it and graduated last year.
Oh wow,
Right.
last year. Okay.
Last year. So after almost 11 years, since I've known her.
Yeah.
So now after 11 years, she's now finally made it. And she works with me now as an associate. And I cross her in the corridor. And how are you doing? She said, I'm moving. Where are you going? I'm moving to Oakville. I'm like, but don't you live near the clinic? Yeah, I'm in Scarborough, right?
Yeah.
Said, yeah, don't you live in Scarborough? Yeah, but we're moving. I'm like, where are you moving to? Oakville. I'm like, why? Is your
It's like an
house like
hour drive each way.
right? Like, what's wrong with your house in Scarborough? No, I need a better house,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, but your house in Scarborough is paid off. No,
Yeah.
I'm getting a new house in Oakville, $4 million.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
what is it that you're doing? Right. And
Mhm.
1 year into practice, took her 11 years to get there,
Yeah.
has a bunch of debt,
Yeah.
right? No CI, no DI, no LI,
Yeah.
right? And in her first year decides, you know what? I'm going to buy a house in
It's
Oakville
time.
for me. It's time because I deserve it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not the way you should be planning your financial future. I mean, if you want to move to Oakville, give it some time. Make sure that you build your foundation. And whatever comes, the wind blows, but you'll have your foundation, and then you can have your house in Oakville. But
You,
this is not the time.
like, so I had this conversation with somebody recently, and I think this is going to shed light to, I think many listeners. I tell our clients, our prospective clients, that it is not for me to judge what it is you want from your life. Our main question that we ask is, what is your rich, fulfilling life? And you can literally tell us whatever you want. And if a part of your rich, fulfilling life is to do that, because what you just said is a conversation we had with somebody else who was in the US, moved here to Toronto, works downtown, at the General Hospital, but he wants to be in Mississauga. So they're like, okay, we'll buy this nice $2 million home in Mississauga. I'm like, great, no problem, because that's what his rich, fulfilling life was. And what I told him and his wife is, it's great that you want to do this. You're 45, 46 now. You've been renting for the last like 6-7 years. You feel like you finally deserve this, I guess, right? And maybe it is time because your kids are growing older. You have 2 kids. They're, I think, 11 and 7. They need some more space to run around and this and that. Amazing, no problem. But I told them that, listen, I'm not judging or anything, but you have paid us to make sure that you make rational decisions regarding your finances in the future. That's our job. So if you don't mind, let me educate you on what this decision will do for your future. If after that you still want to go ahead and buy that $2 million single detached home in Mississauga and now drive 40 minutes to work, because right now you're renting in a condo like literally 10 minutes from work, if you like to do that after, amazing, no problem. That's going to be part of your financial life plan, and we'll go ahead with that. And that's the way we're going to finalize it. But if you choose to take a different route, then obviously we can change things up. I told him the opportunity cost of you buying that home will set you back minimum 5 years. You may have been financially independent at 60, even though you just started practicing in Canada at 45. The way we're going to plan this out, the way we're going to save the taxes, the way we're going to get you the income, the way we're going to grow your assets and give you the passive income, I'm pretty much saying that in about 15 years, you'll be financially independent. But if you buy this home, it's going to cost you an extra 5 years to be financially independent. Is that okay for you? And he thought about it, him and his wife, and he's like, give me a couple of days, let me get back to you. When he finally did, he's like, you know what, Saad? Thank you so much for having that conversation, because in my mind, $2 million house, what, maybe $10,000 mortgage, 11,000. Well, I make 50, 10 goes there. Great. But he's like, but I wasn't thinking about the tax I'm going to have to pay, right? Because 10 grand to get it out of the corporation is just the mortgage. I haven't even paid for food yet. Right. So thank you so much for having that conversation. And the plan that we ended up moving forward with was, because I told him, listen, that $2 million house, it's going to come to you. Maybe just now's not the time. And if you still go ahead, no problem, we're going to make it work. However, if you just buy a townhouse today, so not for $2 million, but if you go from a condo, a 2-bedroom condo in downtown Toronto, to a freehold townhouse, let's say you get something around 2,000 square feet, it'll probably set you back about 1.1, 1.2, not $2 million. But right. That 1.1, 1.2 is now all of a sudden going to be about $5,000 of mortgage. Now you can actually pay for your lifestyle, food, groceries, car bills, get the nice car you want, all of that. And we can all make it work in about $12,000 a month, rather than your mortgage is starting from 10, 11,000 a month. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that onus is on us.
Of course.
That onus 100% is on us.
Yeah, but not always. Not always. I mean, at the end of the day, Saad, we are the decision makers of our own life. And at the end of the day, we decide we either take advice or we don't take advice.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what you just said there is no different than what I call left against medical advice. Okay? If we're talking, if our audience are physicians out there, the audience know what LAMA is. LAMA, left against medical advice. So you're a patient of mine, or I have a patient, and I will tell them, you should do this, you should do that, because it is in your best interest that you do this. While I understand and respect your values, and I'm not to say that I'm not. I understand and respect your values. Here's the best way you're going to get there. And here's what I advise you to do. Now, you can decide to go different route. And if you do, I may or may not support you. Okay? Because if something that you do is totally irrational and will actually make your health worse, I will not in support of making your life worse. But if you're taking a decision that is something that is not exactly mine, but still reasonable, then I will help you get there.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, I will say you're doing against medical advice.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that I won't, that it doesn't mean that I'm against your values. It just means that I understood your value, but still it's not the right thing to do.
It's just not rational. It doesn't make the most sense for you.
Right. Now, if it's somewhat reasonable and it still respects your values, then I would say, yeah, of course I will help you. Like the same way you are helping your client. It's not the best, but I understand, and it's okay. It's doable, but it's not going to totally destroy your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I bet you, if it's totally going to destroy his life, would you still support him in doing it?
No way. I wouldn't take them on.
Of course,
it's now a liability for us, essentially. Actually,
right? Yeah. So the same thing in medicine, and we as physicians understand that, right?
Yeah.
You say left against medical advice, everybody knows what that means.
Yeah.
So in essence, what we need to communicate to your client or to our patients is, Here's option one, here's option two. Option two is probably not the best as option one. It's reasonable. Option three, which is what you wanted to do, not a good thing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't support option three. But
Hmm.
you want to do option two, which is not the best, I'm still going to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And in finance is exactly the same. You probably know the term, house rich, life poor.
Yep.
So you put your entire 2 million into this house, but then you haven't done your DICI, you haven't done the rest, you haven't saved for emergency funds, right? And then what happens? The storm comes and blow off your attic, right? And you have
Interest
no
rates
found
go from 2% to 7% within a year, and now your mortgage has pretty much like increased by 60%.
right. But not just that, you're now 50,
Yeah.
and you suffer a heart attack.
Yeah. On top of that, yeah.
On top of that, right?
Yeah.
It happens at the worst time, right? That's life. It's called life. It happens at the
Yeah.
worst time. So you have a heart attack and you can't work for the next year. How are you going to pay for a $10,000 mortgage every month? You
Yeah.
can't. You're going to have to sell your house.
Yeah.
So, as much as you want to help them reach their rich, fulfilling life, there's a certain amount of reason that you say, yeah, I'm going to help you get there, but not this way. Because if you're going to do this way, all it takes is a little pebble on the road and you're going to fall off your bike.
Yeah.
And
Because
if
you're
you
going too
if you
fast.
fall
Yeah.
off your bike,
Yeah.
forget about the rich, fulfilling life that I promised you.
It's not
Forget
going
it.
to happen.
It's not going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
And so we need to get our minds around that.
Yeah, no, like I think it's 100% right. You're right. Like if that's why we always have that introduction conversation first to see if we can actually help you live a rich, fulfilling life. Because if you tell me something crazy that I know we can deliver, this is not going to work. So I guess in my mind now, moving forward, it's going to be llama.
Lama.
Yeah,
Lama.
right. So I like that. Okay, so let's
The
I
third
guess
one?
one last thing, I guess, to um, break it up. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have you come on more often because these conversations always end up being a bit longer than most conversations. But the last one is Vu. If it's not a bit too intimate or personal, you can just tell me if it is, not a problem. But what is your rich, fulfilling life? What are you working towards? And are you living one today?
I am absolutely living one today. I'll tell you, I'm almost 50. When I first started at 26, my rich, fulfilling life, my goal dream was, uh, you know, become a professor at the university, and travel the world and make all these, presentations and being well known and etc. And at almost at 50, my rich, fulfilling life is I just want to stay at home with my kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's essentially how it turned out to be.
Yeah.
For me, my rich, fulfilling life is I want to spend as much time as possible with my kids and my wife and my family.
Yeah.
And I'm living it.
Yeah.
So how did I even get here? I got here because I was able to put the foundations, the LI, the DI, the LI, the CI. I've done it. The other thing that I've done is I've saved enough for my retirement. And I've planned for when I'm no longer here.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm no longer here 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 25 years from now, when I'm no longer here, what will happen to my kids, my wife, my family? I've planned all that out. It's clear in my mind what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so now I live a very financially carefree life.
Mm-hmm.
And because I live a financially carefree life, I'm no longer tied by the next paycheck.
Yeah.
Now, that is easy to say for someone who's practiced 24 years of medicine. Vu, people will say, Vu, but you've had 24 years of medicine. You've made it. I agree. Fair enough. I've got a lot of my colleagues who are at my age or worse, 50, 55, who are not where I am. Right?
For sure. Easily. I meet
Right.
them. Yeah.
Right. All the time. They're not.
Yeah.
They're still chasing that next paycheck.
Yeah.
And for your audience, the foreign trained physicians, what is it that you need to live that rich, fulfilling life is really look at what is your goal, right? You're probably in your late 40s, maybe 50s, and you're getting back into the saddle and you're working. And what is it exactly that's your rich, fulfilling life? Is it, again, to go up the university ladder, to make a professor, to make $1 million a year? Like, whatever that is, you have to figure out, is this what I really, really want to do? And maybe rethink that. And two, how do I get there? How do I get the most efficiently possible? Because
Yeah,
at the end of the day, I think we will all get there, to be honest, Saad.
yeah,
I think physicians are in a very privileged situation in society that we will all get there because we make a great income. So we will all get there. The problem is, will you leak
yeah.
along the way?
How much are
Or
you leaking? Yeah,
how much are you leaking? And are you going to get there as quickly as possible, the most efficient way possible?
yeah,
And with your help, hopefully that they'll get there the most efficient way possible.
yeah. You know what? I got one of the best compliments last week from one of our clients. And we get quite a lot, which is, I guess I'm thankful and grateful for that. But this one, I'm probably going to remember for the rest of my life, because this one is a conversation I was having with this person, and he has known, because he's a client. His medical group is mostly a client. I've met all of them and this and that. And the general joke is, no physician is taking clients, but he'll take them because he wants to make sure that he can help out. But he's always been the person who's concerned about his future, wants to make sure that, like, am I making enough money, am I saving enough money, is all of this happening? So he's been working 6 days a week, 7 days a week, for as long as anybody can remember, right? Just because no planning done, nothing. Now, obviously, everything is set for him. He's good. So that's when the best compliment we've ever received we got. He looked at me and he's like, Saad, I want to let you know that for the rest of the summer, I've officially decided that I will no longer be working weekends.
That's
And
amazing.
the reason for that is because of the planning we did. I know exactly what's going to happen. I know when I'm going to be financially independent. I know when I can retire. I know my kids are going to be okay. I know if I die tomorrow, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, my kids are going to be okay. My wife is going to be okay. I know that everything that I want from life, I'm doing right now. So that extra money that I want to make on that Saturday actually has no difference to me. I don't
No,
actually
it
even
has
need
no
it.
meaning.
No meaning. That extra $2,000 that you'll make for that day, absolutely nothing. So he's like, so I'm choosing now to spend that Saturday with my two sons. And
Absolutely.
I told him, thank you so much for telling me this, because this is what the planning was all about. For you to finally feel comfortable where you can be in this position and take that Saturday off. So I think that's it. That's what this is all about, right? That's what the rich, fulfilling life is all about.
Yeah, for that individual, that's what that meant,
Yeah.
right?
Not everybody you can help, but as long as I think we keep educating people um, and giving the best advice at all times, I hopefully we're going to make a pretty big impact in the Canadian medical industry, um, to really help them,
Well,
because
I
it's
mean that.
important.
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, what I do on my podcast is I educate. Like I,
Yeah,
I don't have the CLU, the CFP, the RCC,
yeah,
and all
all
the
of that
alphabet,
jazz.
all
Yeah,
the other
yeah,
alphabet soup you have behind your name. I only have an MD behind my name. So what I try to do is I just try to educate,
yeah,
and then once I educate, I hand it over to you, right?
yeah,
To actually do the nitty gritty work with them. But the education is important because we are the dumbest smart people I know.
yep,
And so how to correct that is education. And it's important nowadays because of burnout. Burnout is a massive issue in our community, in our profession. And I strongly believe that burnout is tied to personal finance and income.
oh, for
And
sure, like 100%. I have this. I don't know if it's true, but I have this strong belief that, so during the pandemic and during everything, we didn't receive one phone call from any of our clients saying that they're burning out. And we asked them, like, hey, I'm hearing a whole bunch of burnout in the medicine field. Why have none of you called me saying, oh, moving forward, my income will decrease a little bit, so we have to stop saving a little less money or this and that? We had zero of those. And to boil it down to one answer, all of them pretty much said is because we have great clarity over our future. So if I wanted to take a day off here and there to feel better, I did, because I knew that exactly how the money is working, where the money is going, and how I'm going to be okay. So that extra money I would have gotten in those shift or that next day or even the next day, I was perfectly fine taking that off, and that helped us not get burnout. So my belief is the more we help internationally trained physicians live a rich, fulfilling life, the better clarity over their finances they will have, and the better doctors they will be. Because now you're not stressed about money, so you can actually give your full focus on your patients.
That's the point, right?
Yeah.
That's the point. Is you master your financial independence, and you will become a better doctor.
Yeah.
I see a very clear correlation. Now, it's very funny. I see it, you see it, everybody sees it, but nobody ever studies it. You know, if you look at all the studies out there, and I just saw an article today coming out from the dialogue on the CPSO journal. You know, there was an article about burnout. You know, all these factors about burnout, but nowhere in that article ever mentions financial well-being. Never.
Financial stress, yeah.
Right. None of us want to talk about it. It's not money and income doesn't exist in our world.
Yeah.
So
which is crazy, because it's like you're a human being, you know that, and
no, we're not. Doctors are not human beings. No. What are you saying?
Yeah.
We're
sorry,
superheroes.
sorry.
Right. Sad.
Wrong terminology.
You know me all these years. You know I'm not a person, right? I may be an AI or maybe a robot, but but I'm definitely not human.
Yeah. No, it's unfortunate, but you know, we'll keep doing our work, and hopefully everything will kind of work out.
Well, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is amazing to help physicians from foreign countries who come here who worse than I am. Like I was totally oblivious. These individuals, not only are they oblivious to the financial well-being, but they're also struggling just to understand the system. So what you're doing is important.
No, thank you so much. So I think with that, I think this was a pretty valuable episode. So we'll definitely have you on on our show probably in the next little while, because there was a lot more questions I had to get through, but we didn't really get through them, and we're definitely getting at that time. So thank you so much, Vu, for being here. I really do appreciate it, and look forward to obviously continuing our friendship. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Saad, for having me. As I said, I've waited 3 years, so I'm going to sit by the phone again, hopefully not for another 3 years.
No, thank you so much, Vu. Take care. And for everybody, I hope you start your rich, fulfilling life today.
Okay, there you go. That was a very long podcast. And if you stayed to the very end, I hope you enjoyed it. There were a lot of learning points and a lot of good nuggets. But also, I hope that this episode made you reflect on where you are, where you want to be, and how you want to get there. And it's important because we are currently living in a time where medicine is difficult, taking care of patients is difficult, and taking care of ourselves is also difficult. And if you guys believe what I just said there, is that our mental health, our burnout is directly tied to our financial well-being. And if we don't have financial well-being, it is just going to trigger and also worsen your burnout. So please, if you must, listen to this podcast one more time and please reflect on what we have talked about. Thank you very much for listening this far. And if you like this podcast or you like what we said, please email me and give me some feedback. Also, let me know what you would like to hear for next podcast. Please share it with your friends, especially those who are newly trained foreign physicians or those who started their career late and are still struggling. And so please share with your colleagues, with your friends, and with your pets as well. My email is hmfhd2020@gmail.com, hmfhd2020@gmail.com.
How is My Financial Health Doc podcast is hosted by Dr. Vukit Tran. Dr. Tran is a physician with a special interest in personal financial security and wealth education. Dr. Tran does not render or offer to render personalized investment or tax advice through this financial podcast. The information provided is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, tax, investment, or legal advice. Please confer with your advisor, lawyer, or accountant for specific advice.